The cheapest number on a printer box is usually the least important one. A home printer can look like an extraordinary bargain. It scans, copies, connects to Wi-Fi, moves paper with mechanical precision, and places millions of microscopic droplets exactly where software tells it to. Yet after the starter cartridges run out, the replacement ink can begin to feel less like a refill and more like a second purchase of the machine. That is not a pricing accident. It is the visible edge of a carefully engineered business system. The surprising part is not simply that ink is expensive. Genuine ink has to meet demanding chemical and mechanical requirements. The surprising part is how the price of the printer, the design of the cartridge, the firmware, the patents, the recycling program, and now the subscription all work together. This is the hidden economics of printer ink, and the reason the printer in your home may be the least valuable part of the printing business. Start with two products that are useless without each other. A printer without ink cannot print. A cartridge without the correct printer has almost no value. Economists call this a tied product system. One durable product creates continuing demand for a consumable. The strategy is often called bait and hook or razors and blades. Make the durable product easy to buy, then earn revenue from what the customer must replace. But that simple description hides an important distinction. It does not mean every printer is sold at a loss, or that every dollar charged for ink is pure profit. It means the company can optimize the economics of the entire relationship rather than maximizing the margin on the printer alone. Imagine two competing manufacturers. One sells a printer for $300 and inexpensive ink. The other sells a similar printer for $90 and more expensive cartridges. On a store shelf, the second machine wins the comparison immediately. The lifetime cost is invisible because it has not happened yet. That difference between purchase price and lifetime cost is the first engine of the model. Consumers compare hardware when they enter the market. After choosing a printer, they compare only the cartridges compatible with the machine they already own. The first market is crowded. The second can be captive. This creates an unusual pricing equation. The manufacturer can sacrifice some hardware margin to install more printers in homes and offices. Each installed printer then creates years of potential supplies demand. The cartridge is not merely a product. It is the recurring transaction attached to an installed base. The financial importance of printing remains visible even as fewer pages are printed. In its fiscal 2025 fourth quarter, HP reported $4.3 billion in printing revenue and an 18.9% operating margin for the segment. Hardware units declined more sharply than supplies revenue. That does not reveal the profit on any individual cartridge, but it shows why the installed base and its continuing supplies demand matter. Still, ink is not just colored water. An inkjet printhead may fire thousands of times per second. Each nozzle has to create droplets with predictable size, velocity, color, drying behavior, and resistance to clogging. The formula must survive storage, temperature changes, shipping, and repeated heating or pressure cycles. It must interact correctly with paper and with other colors without destroying the printhead. Some cartridges also contain part of the printhead itself. Their price includes electronics, manufacturing tolerances, packaging distribution, research quality control, and the cost of replacing defective products. Original manufacturers argue that those systems provide consistency, durability, and printer protection that low-cost alternatives may not match. That argument has real substance. A cheap compatible cartridge can be excellent, mediocre, counterfeit, or damaging. The aftermarket is not one uniform product. But engineering value alone does not explain the structure of the market. If ink were sold as a generic fluid, the customer could choose from many suppliers. The cartridge turns that fluid into a controlled interface. Shape is one layer. Patents are another. Then come identification chips and firmware. A small chip can tell the printer what cartridge has been installed, estimate remaining supply, record regional or product information, and reject components the system does not recognize. From the manufacturer's perspective, authentication protects print quality, safety, intellectual property, and the customer experience. From the aftermarket's perspective, the same technology can become a gate around replacement sales. That conflict eventually reached the United States Supreme Court. Lexmark sold toner cartridges in two ways: Customers could pay full price with no special condition or receive roughly a 20% discount through its return program. In exchange, return program buyers agreed to use the cartridge once and return it only to Lexmark. Lexmark installed a microchip intended to prevent reuse after the toner ran out. Remanufacturers responded by finding ways around the chip, acquiring empty cartridges, refilling them, and selling them for less than new Lexmark cartridges. Lexmark sued, arguing that the reuse and resale infringed its patents. The dispute was not about whether Lexmark could make a contract with its customer. It was about whether patent law allowed the company to control that physical cartridge after an authorized sale. In 2017, the Supreme Court ruled that the sale exhausted Lexmark's patent rights in the item. Once the company chose to sell a cartridge, patent law could not be used to enforce restrictions on that cartridge against later owners. The court also applied that rule to authorize sales made outside the United States. The decision protected a fundamental principle of ownership. Buying a patented product normally gives the buyer the freedom to use or resell that specific item without an ongoing patent claim attached to it. But the ruling did not make the entire cartridge market open. Manufacturers could still design new interfaces, use contracts against parties who agreed to them, protect trademarks, pursue counterfeits, update products, and compete on reliability. Remanufacturers still had to solve technical problems and earn consumer trust. So the industry kept evolving. One response attacked the traditional cartridge model directly. Refillable ink tanks. Instead of hiding a small supply inside a proprietary disposable cartridge, tank printers sell more expensive hardware with reservoirs filled from bottles. The economics move forward. The customer pays more on day one and far less for each additional page. Canon, for example, says a set of bottles for one of its MegaTank systems can deliver yields equivalent to 30 sets of specified standard cartridges under its testing assumptions. The exact result depends heavily on what is printed, cleaning cycles, settings, and how often the machine is used, but the direction is unmistakable: expensive machine, inexpensive volume. Tank printers do not abolish the business model. They replace it with a different trade. The manufacturer collects more revenue in the hardware purchase. The customer receives lower running costs, but accepts a higher entry price. High-volume users can recover that premium quickly. Someone who prints 10 pages a month may not. The second response did not eliminate recurring revenue. It refined it. With an ink subscription, the customer no longer buys a cartridge in the ordinary sense. The customer buys permission to print a number of pages each month. The connected printer monitors supply, and replacement cartridges arrive automatically. HP's United States Instant Ink plans are explicitly based on pages, not the amount of ink used. A page of black text and a full-color photograph count the same. As of July 2026, the official plan page listed tiers from 10 to 700 pages per month, plus charges for additional sets of pages. Prices can change, but the strategic shift is more important than the exact tier. The unit being sold has changed from milliliters of ink to printing capacity. For a predictable user, that can be convenient and cheaper than buying standard cartridges. For an irregular user, it creates a different calculation: unused capacity, rollover limits, overage charges, internet connectivity, and the possibility of paying during months when little is printed. The subscription also improves the manufacturer's position. Revenue becomes more predictable. Supplies arrive before the customer visits a store and sees competing cartridges. The relationship becomes continuous, and the printer becomes a connected meter for a service. This is the final evolution of the original model. First, the hardware created demand for cartridges. Then the cartridge became a protected interface. Now the interface can become a subscription. So why does printer ink cost so much? Part of the answer is chemistry, precision, reliability, distribution, and research. Part is the cost of manufacturing a complex cartridge rather than selling fluid in a bottle. But the largest explanation is structural. The low hardware price wins the first decision, while compatibility governs the decisions that follow. The correct question is therefore not, how much does this printer cost? It is, what will this printing system cost over the number of pages I will actually produce? For a light user, a cheap cartridge printer may remain rational. For consistent volume, a tank printer can reverse the economics. For predictable monthly printing, a subscription can exchange flexibility for convenience. And for third-party supplies, A lower price has to be weighed against quality, warranty terms, security claims, and the reputation of the seller. The printer aisle teaches a much larger lesson about modern business. Whenever a product looks unusually cheap, look for the dependency that follows it: the refill, the accessory, the software license, the transaction fee, the cloud storage, or the subscription. The most important margin is often hidden outside the product that brought you into the system.